Hi everyone, it's Natalie here. Welcome, and I'm fine. Everything's okay. I had a number of people inquire in the last few days. Like, are you okay? Is everything all right over there? And I'm so moved. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And I didn't realize how little, like, literally, I thought, oh, I'm still kind of engaging. I'm still kind of have my hands in the game in all, and I really did not realize to the extent to which I had really kind of pulled back. um, and that kind of woke me up a little bit, like, whoa, I actually really pulled back a lot. um, so thank you so much, guys, for reaching out and just checking in. Clearly I'm okay. Nothing. I put on makeup for you a little bit here, just enough to kind of, look like myself, because that's usually about the amount I put on anyway, which isn't much because I'm allergic to everything. But yeah, a little mascara, little concealer around the eyes, little lippity doodah there. Yeah, I'm good. Things are good, or I guess as good as they can be given the circumstances, that we're all facing. Um, yeah, last week was, I'll be honest. I mean, I never intend not to be honest about things. Last week was kind of hard. Um, Weeks 1 and 2 was kind of like, hey, all of, self quarantine, what a great idea. Maybe it'll have a really good effect on things and we'll see the impact of that. And when it started to become clear that that's not the case, it really started to weigh heavily. I also found out three family members in one household were likely infected. They didn't have a bad enough infection to be tested in Missouri. Our governor only just shut down the state a few days ago, and only because, the duress that he was under. The city of St. Louis has been shut down since, I think, the 16th or 17th of March, and I was in voluntary quarantine from like the 11th or 12th. So it's been a while. It's been a while. Yeah. So it just got to me. I was really concerned about my family members. They have recovered. There's another family member that's a little bit more distantly related, married to one of my cousins on my dad's side, who's in Ohio, and she had tested positive. And I think most of us know by now that you don't really get tested or they don't even bother to test unless you have symptoms extreme enough to warrant that. So, it was not a good case. Whereas the family members in the area that live locally, it was my uncle and aunt and cousin here, were clearly had all of the symptoms. It was apparent, but it was mild enough that they didn't feel a need to really test. It was just like, stay home and quarantine, which is what most people in Missouri are being told. They're improving things gradually towards the end of the week. Last week, like, you can now, like, my health insurance provider, which is like it's through Obamacare, put something out and said, if you need to see a doctor for any reason or you're worried about anything, here's the list, here's what you do, here are the websites, here are the links, so that we all kind of have that. So things are shifting and improving on a, moment by moment basis, shall we say. But it's touch and go, it's touch and go. And I think everybody's experiencing that. Yeah, I think last week, I did not feel capable of doing a weekly reading, so I just did not. And I don't have enough subscribers to be able to do the community, notifications. So there was no way to just kind of say, hey guys, I need a break. Here's what's going on. I'm just not myself, etc. So, I expect that may be something that we're all experiencing right now, and that we're likely all going to experience from time to time. It seems to me that there's just kind of a little bit of this that's going to happen with all of this, as we ride it out and see what happens. Um, but I've also spent a fair bit of time in the last week or two, realistically, probably more like two, developing a greater sense of like, what can I, what can I do? What can I do to be supportive? Because I see everybody's out there reading cards. I see a lot of community members that I subscribe to doing lives and reading cards and, free tarot and, hey, let's have some fun and be out there and so on. And I don't know if it's just my personality or where I am with all of this. I just don't feel drawn to that right now. Either as a participant in someone else's or in offering that. But I did want to sort of ask, like, is there something that folks would feel would be helpful? Is there something that I could offer by way of content or assistance that would be helpful? I say that because my primary instinct as a human being is that of a healer and a helper. And sometimes being a tarot reader is the way that that's most easily expressed in the world. The way that is expressed is something that is an ongoing thing that changes regularly. Sometimes it's through artwork. Sometimes it's through teaching. Sometimes it's just through direct interaction. Sometimes it's through distance healing and distance healing work, which is something I haven't done very much in the last few years, but which has very suddenly become very prevalent in what I do. So it's interesting. And, to do that well, for me anyway, I do need a lot of space back and not spent heavily engaged with folks. It's interesting because I guess it was last Sunday, and I'm going to give like a whole update of like, here's what I've been up to, but this is just where I'm in the flow of it. But last Sunday, I had a friend contact me and say, look, I've got a friend of mine that you don't know who is at home by herself. They did a COVID test. The results are not in. She's having a real trouble breathing right now, and she's really scared and upset. If you could send her Reiki or send her healing of some kind, I would really appreciate it. So I sat down to work with her friend, and I decided to call on Tara, specifically on Tara's emanation as the 20th Tara. I'll put the link to that information in the description box. And I called on her and I had a very powerful experience of being sort of instructed by her about how to use her mantra and work with her for healing. And it was a really remarkable experience. And it feels like something that I'm really quite happy to offer. And not for anything, just as a, if you are afraid or sick, if a family member of yours is sick, or needing to recover, or, if you're living someplace where you're very heavily afflicted by things right now, please get in touch, because I feel like that is something I can offer very happily. That I feel really like I need to, like that's something I'm being asked to do. So, you don't have those experiences just for the fun of it, right? They come because you're intended to put them to use. So if you are sick, it doesn't have to be COVID. It can be any kind of contagious illness, or if you are, have a family member who is sick, please let me know. I will include them, in that healing work on a regular basis. I also had before I move on to something else, I also had another really powerful experience working with the 20th Tara, just going to New York, journeying, to New York to attempt, just to pray for a hospital, overall for all of the people who are in a hospital sick. And I'd seen it on the news, and so it was very easy to visualize it, link to it, and go over there. And usually when I do that, it's very quiet. I don't experience the energy of a space as being particularly hectic, even if it's a hectic space, right? Like a hospital would be. But I went to this particular hospital, and as I was going through it, it wasn't so much that the hospital itself was hectic, or the space where all of these COVID patients was hectic. But the energy of the space was. It was like cacophonous and noisy and just full. It was like, I don't even know where to go or where to be in this room right now. And as I sort of was trying to grapple with that and how to proceed and move forward with that journey, it became clear that what I was encountering with was the prayers of all of the people who were sending them. So whoever the people were, from whatever religion, whatever background, and I mean, there was everything. It was everything was all there. And so it did feel like a cacophony. And it became a really beautiful one as I realized what was going on. I mean, I was getting bits and pieces of Islamic prayer. I was getting bits and pieces of Jewish prayer. There was some definite spell work at play in there. Tons and tons of Christian prayer of different kinds. Sounds. There were lots of different sounds. I've never experienced this until that moment, but when people have said that, I mean, I've always intuited that it was a thing, that it was correct. But the idea that when you light incense, or you're lighting some kind of a scented offering or herbal offering that's burned, that it reaches into the spirit realm. That's real. I could smell it. There were a lot of different sacred smells. I mean, it wasn't overwhelming. It was like in trace amounts, but I've never had that before where I was like picking that up. There were sounds, so I could hear different types of music, and it was indescribable. It was just indescribable. Really beautiful. Deities, not, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't like sometimes it wasn't like the actual deity, but like a representation of a deity that would be like in the air, or like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe it in words. It was really amazing. And because they were directed specifically to the patients in that ward and in those rooms, I realized maybe that wasn't the space for me to work in. I needed to maybe go up to a bigger, where I was more able to like blanket the space, or blanket and support the work that was already happening. And do it that way, which is what I ended up doing that time. It was amazing. I'm probably saying this too many times, but I've just never seen that before. It was really cool. So your prayers work, our prayers work. They're real. They have a real impact. And they do exist on a plane where, they can be contacted and observed and heard, listened to, felt, experienced. It's very real. And that was encouraging to me in terms of my work on behalf of others. I think I kind of was given that experience so that I would understand better and be able to move forward. The other thing would be Jitro. If you, at some point, it doesn't have to be immediately, obviously, but at some point, if you find that that a loved one has passed away and you were not able to go to a funeral, and you are concerned in some way or would like to ask for any reason, it doesn't have to be anything other than that, really. If you would like to ask for any reason that prayers be offered to a loved one who is recently deceased, that is another area where I feel called to work as a doula. And I just had not yet incorporated that into my practice. And I've realized over the last few weeks, this is it. Because, obviously as a doula, my preference would be to be able to go and be with the dying individuals. If there were a way to make that safe, because, efforts were properly organized and we had proper equipment and oversight and leadership, around the, different hospitals and environments. Obviously, my preference would be to go and be with people and sit with them while they're in the process of losing their lives or dying. To hear their last words, to walk them over, and to sit with them while they're in that transition and immediately after. And then to include them in my regular practice of helping move and shift their energy successfully and comfortably. I think the thing everyone feels scared about with regards to this situation and this virus is that we can't be with loved ones that are in the hospital being treated. And that's very hard. Something I feel moved right at this moment to explain and to put out there, because I've had this conversation with my parents this week, is, nobody actually really ever dies alone. Because when you're dying, you're not alone. Even, it's just more often the case that when you're dying, you'd hope that you could have family members here, or, or loved ones that are here on this plane with you now, in addition to the ones that have already passed, right? That are coming in to help you shift. Whether people feel willing and able to recognize the individuals that come from the other side or not, that no one can guarantee any of that. But sometimes knowing an awareness that we all have family members, ancestors, different spirit beings that come in and will help us, or accompany us as we die. I think that's important to know. When someone is dying of a disease or an illness, it tends to be less sudden for them. They tend to have, especially with a fever, it shifts awareness a lot. So what I've noticed is that the people that I've observed, at least so far, are having a great deal of that in and out of worlds shift in consciousness. That gives me hope, because it makes it more likely that they're dying with consciousness. It's a conscious death, that they're not shocked by their death, that there's an awareness that something has shifted and that they are shifting and transitioning. That said, if you fear that somebody who is dying, or going to die, and you would like additional support for that process, or additional support for someone recently deceased, please be in touch, because I also have a practice for that. I think it's the reason a lot of people are either attracted to Tibetan Buddhism or put off by it, but there are a lot of practices around death and dying. One of those is Ajitro. I've talked about it before on the channel. And it's a beautiful, beautiful practice. It's so beautiful. And I've watched so many different shifts take place in that practice as I've offered it to others over time since I learned it. So yeah, if someone or love, I hope my screen's glitching. I don't know if this is gonna happen when I upload this as well or not. But if you know or love someone who is likely to pass, or in the process of dying, please get in touch. That is something I can offer. And I will be able to ask questions that will help me find a way to connect to that person and reach out to them, and connect with them a little bit more easily. Yeah. So that's important. I just wanted to put that out there more than anything, that right now my work as an end of life worker in the world, feels very much about helping to heal those and offer comfort to those who are sick, and for those who are actively dying, or who have recently passed, to help them make that shift more comfortably and more easily, through this process. They don't have to be Buddhist. They don't have to. It doesn't matter. Religion is irrelevant. It actually does not matter. I have worked with people of various different faiths and no faith, who were complete, either atheists or agnostic, including some old friends who died. So, yeah. Just having a little green tea along with our chit chat this morning. So that brings me to like things I've been doing over the past couple of weeks. While we're talking about Jitro, I'll just bring this one up. So I've been making some holders for my prayer books. I did not get very far with that because I'm just going to move this book and stuff over here. I didn't get very far with it because as I had gotten started making those, I realized that masks at some point were going to become the new normal. I think I was about a week and a half ahead of that curve. But before that started, yeah, this is how it would be inside. And I will attach like a ribbon here so that I can wrap it and like hold that in place. But this is like a traditional covering for like your prayer books and so forth that you would have. And this one is specifically for my Jitro book. So that I thought was helpful as well. And I also made a little mala counter for my Jitro practice. I've done a lot of mala beading in the last few weeks. That's not going to show up well, I don't think. But the darker stone is actually blue tiger's eye. And then a raksha bead. And then a couple of I guess those are serpentine probably. And then, a bigger bead and a little cast Buddha that's on there. Standing in for Vajrasattva for this one. It's not the best work I've ever done beading, but it does the trick and it will work. It's a tool. It's not meant to be, ornamental or worn. This one is literally just meant, most of the parts of Jitro involve doing 5 recitations, except for one where you recite it 21 times. So there are 21 beads and the first 5 are highlighted for me so that I can count those, more effectively without losing track. Which is the point of malas in Tibetan practice, really, is just keeping track of recitation and it's kind of spell work in its own way, right? So I guess I'll talk about malas and then we'll move on to face masks after that. But I had also, because I've been working with Tara and learning the green Tara practice, and the Tara practices all require malas, I have one of my favorite stones is fancy jasper. It's one of my favorites. I think it always will be. It has been for years since I discovered it. So because its predominant color is green, oh, that's nice. It's showing up well. I decided to make a mala. It's hand knotted with markers. So the raksha beads, I can't remember if it's raksha or rakshasa, but these beads are markers so that I know, it's the whole mala then is divided into quarters. So I know when I'm a quarter of the way through and so on, which just helps to keep track. And then this is not completed because I'll hang beads from this. But there's a little, like a Buddha at the bottom of this one that's green. And these are beaded pieces and components I've had for years and just have never used and felt called to make and work with. I did hand knot this one, and it is not like the other one. This one was the first one I made. The Vajra Sattva one for Jitro was second. But like it's loose. It's got some looseness in it. And I was trying to learn how to make a snake knot on here with this tiny material, and it's, you know, it's a little rough. But I may take the whole mala apart and rebead it or restring it, because this was also one of my first ones, so the bead spacing isn't great, you know. I don't know. It doesn't have to be perfect. On the other hand, I really enjoy it, and I've really gotten used to working with this hemp that I used for it, this hemp cord. So I may redo that one. And then I made a second green Tara one out of some smaller, some littler beads, you know, but this was one I made much later. And so the knotting is a lot better, and a lot more straightforward. It also has a green Buddha Tara at the bottom. But again, like you can see, it's not loose, because I knew what I was doing by that point. Although the snake knot isn't great. Yeah, the snake knot's, I mean, but it's just meant to be there to hold the thing together and make it come together. So I'm not worried about the snake knot. So there's that one. I don't know what this one will be, but I knotted another mala, and just put a marker in at the halfway point on this one instead of at quarters. So there's another mala made out of, this one's African jade. Ooh, there we go. And I ran out, because I messed it up and restarted it once at least, I think. I had to like knot in a new piece. So I will cut those off and make sure it's really snug, and then I'll have to put little dots of glue on there to kind of hold those in place, which won't interfere with anything. And I did just order some Tibetan Z beads or Z beads that I'm going to use, and I think I might put one on here as like a guru bead. I don't know. I'm just having fun. I'm working with materials I have already here, and the knotting of beads is really soothing right now and really calming. So I'm enjoying doing that. So the final thing, and this has gotten to be a very chatty video here. It's a long one. The final thing is making masks. So I guess about 2 weeks ago, I realized like, wow, we're going to all be wearing masks for the foreseeable future. You see it in Asian culture a lot. You know, when people are sick, they put on masks. They have homemade masks, cloth masks, various kinds, all kinds of masks. So in recognizing that that was probably going to be part of our new normal, which then also led to kind of having to work with some grief and depression, right? Because this is not going to go away fast. So I needed to process the sadness and the grief, about that, so that I could carry on and figure out where, like, what next, right? What next for myself? What next for all of us? What can I do? What can I offer? But mask making was one of those things. So I found 2 different models that are workable. And I've worked with and worn both now. I can't really say that one is better than the other one in terms of comfort. They're both kind of equally like awkward. But so one of them, I'll show you some of the iterations I've got here. One of them is like a surgical style mask, you know, where you tie it, you know, above and below. I'm not going to put it on because it's clean and I don't want to mess with it. But there's also, did I just dip the string? I did. I just dipped the string in my tea. I'm sure it won't hurt anything. It's a clean mask. It's all good. I don't know what I'm worried about. It is 3 layers or 3 ply, and there's also a little pocket. Again, I'm going to link these in the box below, so if you're curious or you want to make one, you can. But yeah, it's 3 ply, and we haven't done this yet. We may at some point. This one's one of Tom's. So of course we've got skulls on everything because we're just like that, and you know, it's a reminder, right? So yeah, it's also got an adjustable nose. So there's wire in there at the top that allows it to go snugly over the nose. It's a complex piece of machinery here. This one takes probably 45 minutes to make one. So they're not an easily done one. It took days. I made lots and lots and lots and lots of the first, you know, part of it, and then ran out of binding tape and it's a whole thing. But anyway, it can be done. It can be done. It's been very helpful and effective in terms of just feeling like it's a good barrier. Um, I tend to be somebody that has, I seem to, other people around me will be exposed to a lot of viruses and I never come down with them, but then I'll seem to bring them home to my God forbid, to family members and stuff. I'm very concerned personally about being a um, carrier, like an unintended carrier, like an asymptomatic carrier of the coronavirus. That worries me a lot. Um, a lot. I really do worry about that. So I had started wearing these right away once I realized how likely that could be. It does give you a sense of security that you probably shouldn't have. But I think any kind of barrier is better than none. And I still obviously practice like social distancing, and we bring the groceries in and have a process for that now, and all of the stuff. But yeah, there's also this, I thought this was funny too. This is also one of Tom's, um, different type of binding tape on the bottom, but yeah, all the skulls. So yeah, where all of the different skull fabrics that I have been pulled out. I can show you mine too. I've got one, only one of mine at the moment has skulls on it, but it's got like pretty sugar skulls, so you wouldn't necessarily know, because I don't know, I'm not as nihilistic as my other half. I don't mind all of that. I don't want to scare people either. I think something bright and cheerful and funny could also be like helpful. At any rate, there's those. There's another style that I've also come up with or found a link in the thing, but that is like this, that goes over the ears, and this is like beading elastic, which I've actually found to be very helpful and effective. You just have to go over and over and over it to make sure it's secured in place, with the sewing machine, but it can be used in place of finding real elastic. And it also has a pocket, but it's made from one piece of fabric, so it's a lot thinner. This would probably be much more effective in terms of wearing or like in a situation with my mom and dad where I don't want to get them sick. Whereas with the more like surgical thicker mask, this one I would feel, you didn't hear it here, folks, but I have seen videos where people like cut out filters from heating and air conditioning filters and vent filters that would make a mask like this equivalent to an almost equivalent to an N95, the closest thing you could get, where you put you cut it to size and put it in. You then have to, of course, take it out and replace it. So, choosing wisely and thinking about sustainability of all of that. And, it's not a replacement for a medical grade mask, but it's it's potentially helpful. Just, yeah, I think that's enough said. But yeah, so I ended up making several of these, like for my godmothers. Actually, this one is earmarked for my godmother, Linda, who's down in Oklahoma. These two are, I think, spares that we're going to have around the house. They look like maxi pads to me for some reason. I don't know why I look at them. I'm always like, oh, look, it's a maxi pad. Probably because, they put all kinds of decorative things like this on maxi pads. But yeah, so, and I'm probably going to step up some more of the mask making. I brought some to the grocery store worker, a couple of grocery store workers at our local Schnucks, because I love them and I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And I've made them for my family and, anyone that I know. And as of like earlier last week when I'd started making them, the local hospitals around here were not accepting them. That may change over time. If it does, I will continue to pull stash out, and figure out, a faster process and see if I can get more materials that I need, like elastic and things like that. It just depends. It just depends. And yeah, we'll see. I know a lot of people have been making masks for healthcare workers. Again, like around here, right now, they're not accepting those. That may change. And if and when it does, then yeah, that'll become a thing in my household. But it's not at the moment. Right now, it's mainly just like making them for people I know and care about, or bringing them to people like essential workers that are nearby who will need them. I've got one that I'm making for the mailman so that our mailman has one. Because I worry about him and he's looking kind of depressed and sad these days, and I haven't been able to chat with him recently. But yeah, yep. So that's kind of it, between the practicing and just doing practical things, and then going like to my mom and dad's and helping them out with stuff around their property, which is huge. That's kind of mostly what I've been doing. And I keep thinking, oh, I'll come home and I'll, make a video or I'll upload something or whatever. But I find that I'm tired a lot. I'm sure you guys are probably finding that too. You're either probably tired or really anxious and have so much energy. It's like, what do I do with all this energy? And I think all of those are very normal responses to the current circumstances. So, yeah. But anyway, I do want to invite you to reach out. My email address is always in the description box. It's now become a permanent part of the description box for about the last month or two. Yeah, reach out if you need to, please, because it's the least I can do. If there's something that folks would like for me to do, if you want something that's funny or entertaining, or I've had a few requests for, I really miss your weekly videos, a few emails about that. So I will upload a weekly video this week. And I'm getting ready to do that now, actually, when I'm done with this one. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, if people want like a meditation video or a how do I work with anxiety video, or, I don't know, sky's the limit, guys. Those of you who've watched for a long time and know me, you have a sense of what my skill set and background is and strengths are, probably in ways that I can't see for myself even. So, if there's something that I can offer, please let me know. Please let me know. Okay. So with that, I will be back for the general reading for the week. We'll see what we come up with. And, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what comes. I'm not making any promises because I just don't know. And I don't know what will happen. But I will try to at least be a little bit more on top of updating and staying in touch to the degree that I'm able. And I'm kind of just letting events and things unfold as they are and as they come up. Yeah. And just kind of keeping my own mental space as calm and collected as I can. So, yeah, that's where things are at the moment. Okay. I send so much love to all of you. Please know, even when I'm not communicating, I'm thinking of you. That's you. I'm not absent completely. I'm definitely pulled back, but I'm in terms of output and like face to face. But I'm not really absent, if you see what I mean. So yeah. Okay. More to come. See you soon.